Hello, students. Being able to use the distributive property and combining like terms uh, come in very handy when you have equations where you have to use multiple steps in order to solve. So today I am going to show you to do just that, okay? So sometimes we have to combine like terms first. Other times we have to use the distributive property first. And then most of the time we would have both, using the distributive property and then we combine like terms and then we'll be able to solve the equations. So in this video I will do 3 examples for you where you have all of these scenarios. So in our first example we have an equation that says 42 equals to 8m plus 13m. So as you can see right here we have two terms and both have m in each. So these are considered like terms and we can combine them. So when you combine the right hand side of the equation, 8m plus 13m, you have a total of 21m. Okay, 21m. Now, and then the left hand side you have 42. Okay, so pretty much basically they want to split up the 21m. They could have given us the equation 42 plus 21m, but no, they gave us the equation 42 equals am plus 13m. Okay, so it's kind of like walking around and say, well, I'm 8 plus 13 years old, when you could have said I'm 21 years old. So, you know, we need to combine like terms, okay? And the next step we need to do is to get m by itself. And to isolate m, we would have to divide both sides by 21. Okay, so I would divide this by 21 and divide 42 by 21. Remember, you do one side to the equation, you must do the same to the other side. So 21 divided by 21 would give us 1m. And then 42 divided by 21 is 2, if my math is correct. So my answer for m here is 2. Okay, so this would be the solution. But as you can see, when there are like terms, you must combine the like terms first so that you end up with just one term that has an m in it. Okay, and that will allow you to solve the equation. Okay, so now let's look at another example where you have to use the distributive property first. So in this example here we have 18 equals to 3 times 3x minus 6. As you can see here, when you have a coefficient in front of the parentheses, it is the distributive property. So you're gonna have to distribute the 3 through the equation. Okay, so 3 times 3x, okay, and 3 times negative 6, okay. So if you don't remember the distributive property, I suggest that you review a video. I have a separate video that shows you how to do the distributive property. But here you can see, after we've done that, we would get on the right hand side of the equation, 3 times 3x would give us 9x, okay, and then minus 3 times 6 will give us 18. Okay, that's what happens on the right hand side of the equation when we multiply 3. 18 remains the same on the left hand side of the equation, so we just simply write it down. Now this becomes a two-step equation, and if you don't remember two-step equation, I suggest you watch the two-step equation that I have to review. Okay, so in a two-step equation, what I would do is I would isolate the variable term by moving or undoing the constant term. Okay, so I would add 18 to this because that I know will zero out, and that's what I want. Okay, and I would have to add 18 to the other side of the equation as well. Okay, because remember we got to do the same thing to both sides of the equation. Okay, so on this right hand side, this will zero out. Okay, so I have 9x left, so I would write 9x down. Okay, on the other side, however, since I added 18 to 18, I end up with 36. Okay, so now you have one more step to do, because remember, your goal in solving equation is to get the variable by itself and just one x only. Okay, so in order to undo the 9x, I would divide both sides by 9. Remember, 9 times x, in order to get rid of the undo the multiplication, I would have to divide. Okay, so I would divide 9 on both sides. Okay, and this will become 36 divided by 9 would give me 4. Okay, and the solution for this would be x equals to 4. Okay, on to the next example. We have a rather messy equation. So as you can see, there is things are just sitting everywhere. So here you have negative 8 being multiplied by all of this mess inside. So negative 8 times negative 8x minus 6. And then equals to, on the right hand side, you have also negative 6x minus 22. So not only you have x over here on this side, you also have x term over here on this side. So somehow we need to bring them together so that we can combine them. Okay, so but the first thing we need to do though is to use the distributive property. Okay, so I am going to have to multiply this negative 8 throughout. Okay, so negative 8 times negative 8x and negative 8 times negative 6. Okay, so I'm going to be very careful here with this negative. Okay, so I will end up on the left hand side of the equation. Negative 8 times negative 8 will give me 64. Okay, and then I bring the x down. Okay, because it's like saying having 8x in one box and having 8 of those boxes. So altogether I have 64x. Okay, and then negative 8 times negative 6 will become positive 48. Okay, 48, because 8 times 6 is 48. All right, and that all of that is equal to, okay, now since we didn't do anything with the right hand side of the equation just yet, we're going to write down everything as is. So negative 6x minus 22. Okay. Now our equation looks a little nicer, but we're not quite there yet because we still have x here and x here. We need to bring them together. So what I would prefer is if this negative 6x would go over here and join the 64x. Okay, now in math there is a legal way to do that. Now you can't just physically take this and move it over here. In math we call it opposite or reverse operation. So since here we have negative 6x and we want to move the entire thing over to the other side, we simply add the opposite of that to it. Okay, so we add 6x. Okay, that will zero this out. Okay, and guess what? We add 6x over here. Remember, we got to do the same thing to both sides. And that's kind of like moving things to the other side, right? Okay, so we're going to simplify it. Okay, 64x plus x will end up giving us 70x, if I'm doing my math correctly, will give us 70x. Okay, and then I bring the 48 down because I haven't done anything with it yet. Okay, bring the 48 down. Okay. And then that is all equal to, now let's look at the right hand side. Okay, we have here negative 6x and positive 6x. Okay, that goes away, but somehow we still have that negative 22 left over there. Okay, remember, the sign always go with the number. Do not forget that negative. Okay, this negative right here, you can call it minus if you want to, but in math it's always gonna get stuck with the number. Okay, so we bring that same thing down here. Okay, now this has become a two-step equation. Okay, and again, two-step equation, if you have viewed previous video, you would know how to do this. Okay, we would pretty much cover up the 7x term, and we know that we have to get rid of this positive 48. Okay, so we're going to subtract 48 on both sides. Okay, same thing over here, negative 48. Okay, And after we've done that, we would end up with 0 over here for the 48, okay, because that zeroes it out. And we would have left with 70x, okay? You're watching for my mistakes, right? I do make mistakes, and if I do make mistakes, you need to come in the next day and tell me, hi, Mr. Nguyen, I think you made a mistake on example 3 or something, okay? But I'll try not to make mistakes. So negative 22 and negative 48. Remember, you're combining two negative numbers, okay? So you're going to have more negatives. So 2 and 8 make 10. So write the 0 there. Carry over the 1, okay? And then 2 and 4 make 6 plus the 1 is 7. So altogether you have negative 7, okay? Now, our next step and our final step is to divide by 70, okay? Once you've done that, you will be home free, okay? So we're going to do divide by 70. Oh, this problem turns out to be very, very nice, okay? So sometimes we start out with a very, very nasty looking problem, and if we follow the steps correctly, we end up with a rather nice solution. So for this problem, 70 divided by 70 will give you just x. And negative 70 divided by positive 70 would give you a negative 1, okay? Do not put a positive 1 down. It is negative 1 because it's negative divided by positive will give you negative 1, which is your solution. So the answer is pretty nice, okay? All right, on the next screen, you will do one example that involves everything that I just did over here, okay? Using the distributive property and combining like terms. So pause your video so you can do the next example, okay? By yourself, and then we'll check the answer. So for this pause and practice problem, I left this example here, and I would like for you to look at this example and follow my step and see if you can try it on your own. And don't forget to pause your video, and then we'll check your solution in a minute. Okay, are you ready? Go. Please pause your video. Please pause your video. Now, are you ready to check your answer? Okay, your answer turned out to be 0. Okay, so as you can see, we have here the distributive property that we must use. So first, the first step I did was I multiplied 8 through everything inside the parentheses on the left-hand side of the equation. So right here, 8 times 4 is 32. So 8 times 4k is 32k minus 8 times 4, which is 32. So on the left-hand side, you have 32k minus 32 equals to the right-hand side, which is negative 5k minus 32. So I took everything down as is because I didn't do anything to it. So now the second step that I'm going to do is I am going to add 5k to both sides of the equation, and then I'll simplify, okay? I add 5k, okay? And the reason I add 5k is because I have negative 5k here. So on the left-hand side of the equation, when I simplify, I would have 37k, and then I bring down the 32, the minus 32, okay, as is because I haven't done anything to it yet. On the right-hand side, however, since this 5k is 0 out, I have negative 32 left, so I got to bring that negative down. Remember, be careful with that negative. It's got to follow the number, okay? And then finally, step number 3 is I add 32 to both sides of the equation, and then I simplify. The reason I add 32 is because here I have negative 32. Okay, so to reverse that, I add 32. So I simplify and I get 37k equals to 0. Then finally, step 4 is when I divide both sides of the equation by 37, and I end up with 0 divided by 37, which is 0. Now, once you get this answer, since there were too many steps involved, you should always check your solution. So as a reminder, to check your solution, you take the 0 and you plug it back in for k, and the left-hand side of the equation should end up equal to the right-hand side of the equation. And that concludes our lesson today. Thank you for watching.